Jai Sri Krishna. Hello. Let's guys start a discussion on very important topic, and that will definitely help you if you are working in the product based company, or if you are working for the banks to vendor evaluation projects. So these and the architecting the to be baseline documents as a business analyst, business analyst perspective, blueprint perspective. So in this document, what are the elements contained in the 2B documents, how the 2B document will look like whenever you are working in any projects as a business analyst, and you are doing the gap analysis in that project. So you need to prepare the as is document and 2B document. So the part of gap analysis document. So in this document, we will discuss in detail of the architecting 2B baseline document. So let's start a discussion on this video, guys. So let's first, I'll give you the introduction related to the what is the 2B baseline document, why we prepare this document, and what are the role of business analyst in this document. So let's first discuss on the definition of 2B baseline document. So the 2B baseline document is a detailed and the documented plan that describe the future state of organization. So that will give you the overview, or will give you the in detail knowledge how the future process or the future structure, or the how we can review or resolve the current pain points in the current systems, and this how the system process will work in the 2B system. So that entire thing we will write down in the details or the snapshots of that, and from these documents the team will take a reference and to draw the request for proposal document or to draw the business requirement document, and it is an outline the how things will operate after the project or transformation is completed. So how once the project or once that vendor software is implemented in that system, so how the process will look like, and how what are the teams or what are the users are interacting with that solutions. And in a contracts with hedges, while the hedges baseline document is a current state, and the 2B baseline is forward looking for representing the target vision or the target goal or the target objective, how they will going to achieve by implementing this solution. And the role of business analyst to creating the 2B baseline document is like the BA is act as an architect and bringing the gap between the business vision and technical reality. And the BA will be the part of the all of the workshops that conducted by gathering the requirement at the as is process and to be process, and where the BA will form the proper questionnaires or proper the workshop planning with sending the questionnaires to the the business team, understand their requirements, and to be a part of this workshop, and where the translate the high level goal into the concurrent actionable blueprints that will work and that will satisfy all the pain points in the current system. So that is the the baseline document. So let's discuss on why 2B architecture is crucial and important for the organization, and why they are looking for. It will help us to share the visions of the goal. It will strategic alignment helpful. It is a risk mitigation tool and guiding the frameworks how the 2B process will look like. So let's discuss these four things in detail step by step. So first one is a share vision. So this document will create a single unified understanding for features state for all the stakeholder, eliminating the ambiguities. And that document will contain all the user roles and responsibilities, and when, why, and at what feature they are interacting, what tasks they are completing. And these documents will help to understand what are the current mandatory processes, what are the current non-mandatory processes, what are the manual processes, what are the to be processes, non-mandatory, non-mandatory, or the manual processes, and then the strategic alignment. These documents will ensure the project's outcome directly support and align with the orchestrating business strategy and goal, and that will help us from these to be architecture document or the to be document, how we can meet the project or the business objective and business goal by implementing these solution to the production environment. And the risk mitigation, definitely the to be architecture will help to identify the potential process gap in the current system and the technical challenges that by faced by the system and dependencies early in the project life cycle, at what are the dependent things or how we can start and what thing is mandatory in that these systems and guiding the frameworks. So it sure has a definitive reference for the development, testing, and implementation teams throughout the projects. And that will make sure the teams are on the same page. So let's move on the next slide. That is the business analyst blueprint and the key step involved in the architecture of to be baseline documents blueprint. So there are the four step processes. First one is understanding the strategic vision. Second one is a define and prioritize the requirement. Third one is a model the to be state and validate and refine is the last stage. So these stages we will discuss in details in upcoming slides. So in the understanding and the strategic vision, we will discuss on the collaborate with key stakeholder to define the problem and desired outcomes. What are the problems in the current system, and from these pain points or the problems, how the desired outcomes will look like and how that pain points we will get to solve. And then define and prioritize the requirement. So there is that a number of requirement, we need to prioritize the requirement, we need to sort the requirement, we need to prioritize requirement on the basis of sort analysis, on the basis of Moscow technique, must have, should have, could have, and will not have, and also to do the high importance and high urgency matrix to prioritize the requirement and to elicit and analyze and document the both the technical and the business requirements, and then model the to be state. So then we should think how the to be state should look like, what we are including the to be state, and how the process flow or the user interaction on that process will look like in the to be state. So visually represent the future process data flow and the systems, and it will validate the refines, review the blueprint with all stakeholders to get by in the formal sign off. So that's the things in the business analyst key step. So let's discuss on each step to detail understanding. So let's understand the strategic vision. So what are strategic vision, why we are going to achieve implementing these projects? So we will understand these things and collaborate with the leaderships, conduct the workshop, interview, chart session, brainstorming session, group discussion, team meetings with executive and the business owners to understand their requirement and understand the business need and understand why after implementing that system or that product to the production environment, what the goal they are going to achieve, what are their target they are going to solve, on the basis of that product or solution meet the business objectives. And then deep review the business goals, analyze the corporate objectives, strategic roadmap, and the key performance indicator of from that software. So analyze that things is the corporate objective, strategic in the business goal perspective, and how these are to solve the business problem. And then define the success metric. So to draw the success metric of each stage, what we are going to complete and how we can say that is successful complete or that is the done task. So clearly articulate what are the looks like the in measurable terms for define the declare customer onboarding, time by the 50%, or to increase the customer satisfaction road, to define such success matrices that will help us to success this project. And then define and prioritize the requirement, guys. So we have the n number of requirement that we are collecting with the requirement initiation techniques like workshop, interview, surveys, group discussion, chat session, brainstorming session, and that gather and adverse of the stakeholder to brainstorm and define the needs of the businesses, or what are the current and to be stressed, gather these requirement with using this requirement elicitation technique, and conduct an one-on-one session to uncover details and requirement to the key users, and survey questionnaire for the broad. And once to gather this requirement, collect the requirements, if we have any open points, then mail these questions to the client and get the response from the clients. Or also, if we need to conduct the the document analysis, so that thing is also there. And then the type of requirement, so there is a two types of requirement. One is a functional requirement and the non-functional requirement. So as a business analyst, you need to understand in detail what is a functional requirement and what is a non-functional requirement, and how we can differentiate the requirement between the functional requirement and the non-functional requirement. So the functional requirements specifically talk about what is the system and the process must do, what are the system perspective tasks, or what are the user interaction with that system. So that will cover in the functional requirement. And the non-functional requirement, how the system must perform the security, performance and scalability. And then we will prioritize the requirement by using the technique like Moscow technique. So Moscow technique will help us, what are the requirement that must have in this solution, what are the requirement that should have in this solution, and what are the requirement that could have in this solution, and what are the requirement that won't be, or that not be a part of that solution, that is a sufficient. So we will do the prioritization for the requirements, and then we will move on the modeling the to be state. Then we will start work on the to be state, and to create the process flow of the to be space, and how the to be stage will look like. So the process modeling, data modeling, and user experience modeling, and the system data flow modeling. System data flow diagram, basically these fours are the modeling of the to be stage. So process modeling, in the process modeling, we will create the business process modeling like a BPMN user usually map payout future function, the process flow diagram, the flow charts, swim lane diagrams, or the these diagrams, or the process flow diagram we draw for the process of modeling. And the data modeling, create an entity relationship diagram to show the relationship between each the entities, and to define the data structure requirements, what are the data will require, what are there the lanes, what are there the data fields we require to collect these kind of requirements. And then user experience modeling, develop a wireframe and mock-up to illustrate the future user interface, how should look like, to draw the wireframes and prototype for these things. And the system and the data flow diagram, so how the data will flow from the core banking system or other system to the transaction monitoring system, and how to system will do the monitoring and to perform the monitoring. So how that flow will look like, and show the information will move different system and the component. So let's move on the next slide, which is the also important slide, that is the validate, refine and communicate, the fourth step it is, and it is and the last step. So that will complete it, the to be state architecture diagram in the business analyst perspective. So the stakeholder review, present the to be blueprint to the stakeholder for a feedback and the confirmation is that satisfy their requirement. So then conduct the stakeholder review and meetings and the workshop with the stakeholder, or the UAT sessions with the stakeholder, and support them the blueprints, how it will look like, and then obtaining sign off to gain the formal approval from all the necessary parties, and look in this the agreed and the future state will look like, and the establish and communication plan ensure that every involved in the project, including the developer tester, has been understanding of the blueprints of that project, how should will look like, and what are the alerts related status we are discussing in that the entire thing. So that need to be keep in mind. So let's move on the next slide, that is an most important slide, and it will definitely help you guys this slide. So that's the tool and technique for the BA to do the 2B analysis, or to do the 2B analysis for vendor evaluation. So modeling tool, whenever you draw the UML diagrams or the process flow chart, or if you draw the BPMN diagram, ERD diagram, swim lane diagram, test cases. So in this case, you should use the tools like Lucy chart, Miro, the draw.io, InVision, or the Microsoft Visio. So that definitely help you. And then requirement management tools, whichever used by your organization. So you need to work on this tool like Jira, Confluence, Azure DevOps, and the Asana are the requirement management tools. And then the collaboration platform like Microsoft Team, Slacks, and the Google workshops, and the techniques that we are or the system want to implement in your the transaction monitoring system. Entire process is agile methodology or user story mapping and the journey mapping. So let's move on the next slide, that is a common challenges and the best practices in to create the hedges process. So challenges will look like the scope creep. So the team, the entire team, business analyst, the project management, development team, quality QA team, or the testing team are unable to deploy, or that is not control, or it is an control change to project the scope, and the stakeholder disagreement, conflicting the vision parties, and the technical constraint, the future state is not the technically feasible. It is an it will require the times, and it is not an feasible. And the best practices, start high level, then drill down into the details, use a simple clear language and visuals to get the understanding, and the iterative, and get frequent feedbacks from the clients, and maintain the traceability between the requirement and the 2B models, so you can understand what are the exact requirement and what we are cover in the 2B documents. Or you should have the link between the current process or the old processes in that system, and what are the future processes in the 2B system. So that should be there. And then let's move on the last slide, that is in the conclusion, the BA impact on the success of the AGIS document. So the 2B baseline is more than just a document. It will give you the brief overview of how the future state process flow will look like. So that will, it is an the strategic anchor for the entire projects, and the as well as architecture blueprint and the size, and enhance the alignment to ensure the final solution well derived and expected the business value. And that is, and the skillful BA analysis is a master architecting, creating and foundation for a successful and the impactful transformation. So these are the conclusion for that slide. If you have any open questions, or if you gain, or if you interested in this video more, so please do like and subscribe my channel, so that motivate me to create more such videos for you. So once again, thank you so much guys for attending this video.